Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 31st office hours. This is where us at Stately tell you what we've been working on with XState and with our Stately tools. We answer your questions. So if you've got any, ask us in the YouTube comments. You can tweet us, or you can join our Discord, which is discord.gg/xstate, and ask us in the office hours channel. First up, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Laura, and I am a designer and developer advocate for Stately. David?
Hi, I'm David, the founder of Stately, creator of XState, and really surprised that we've done this many office hours so far. It's awesome.
We've been pretty good, very regular. And how about you, Matt?
It's good to keep it regular. I am Matt Pocock. I'm a developer at Stately, and this week I'm panicking about tax and pensions and all that crap.
It's the fun stuff you have to deal with this time of the year.
Once a year.
Yeah. So to kick us off, we thought we would tell you about our new roadmap that we've got. And I've just realized, of course, like the very organized person I am, I haven't put a banner for the URL, but hopefully you'll be able to read it from here. So this is our new roadmap that we've got on the documentation. And I've got to find my window. There we go. So if you're on the docs and you scroll down to the news and useful links section, oh, thank you, whoever did that, you can get to our roadmap. And we've made this because a lot of people were asking us what they've got. They want to know what we've got coming up, and so that they can plan whether they're going to pitch their team using XState right now, or whether there's a feature that they want to wait for. And so this really has a brief outline of what we've got currently in progress. And I think actually most of the things in progress are pretty much wrapping up at this point, nearly. And then we've got what's coming up in the second quarter of this year, which is, I guess, starting today. And here we've got a whole lot of things that we are planning to make in the next few months. And we've got, just in case you want to know what's sort of in our further future, we have the later section that lists the kind of things that we're planning for that part of the future. Is there anything you wanted to add about this, David?
Sure, yeah. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have in the chat about our roadmap. Some important things I want to point out. Of course, we're constantly just working on editor bug fixes and improvements, as well as the registry. And so those are just rolled out whenever we get to them on a regular schedule or cycle, I guess. We're also working on XState version 5, and we've mentioned this in the past, but Matthias and I are making a more concerted effort towards it. We have a couple of big PRs in the pipeline right now that we have to merge in for the next version of XState, and we're actually really excited to release this probably. I don't want to make any promises, but within the next month or two, just in alpha. So the understanding is that if you use this alpha, things might break. We might change different features. So you'd be, using it at your own risk, but it's a really great way to get a feel for what the next version of XState is going to feel like. And speaking of what it'll feel like, the syntax is mostly going to be the same. So the breaking changes are mostly internal. And also there's going to be changes that just make the typing experience a little bit more robust. XState version 4 is a little bit free. Like, it lets you do a lot of things and let you get away with a lot of stuff in TypeScript. And so we're just tightening that up a little bit in version 5. As well as far as the editor goes, we have a lot of features planned, especially supports for teams. I think that that's going to be really important, so that you could basically get your companies on board, and you could have this central place where you could organize all of your application and workflow logic. And one thing that I'm also very excited about, which maybe Matt and Laura want to talk about more, is the documentation updates that they're working on.
Sounds good. I can start introducing that, which is, we are planning to, and are in the process of rewriting the docs basically from scratch. me and Laura are kind of working mostly full time on this now. And we're taking all the old content, completely reorganizing it, stripping it down, making it ready for version 5, and also taking a much more careful approach to how we teach concepts in the documentation and making sure that everything is taught in the order that you need to learn it. And and also flooding the documentation with examples, with interactive, like little tutorials and things, hopefully little videos, all sorts of amazing content. But really, it's the restructuring that I'm kind of most excited by and most proud of. And Laura, what are you excited by with it?
Yeah, I'm excited by the clarity that we're bringing to a lot of the content. I think it's a lot more focused. You're going to be able to find a way through the documentation that's not just sort of clicking on random pages and learning as you go. So you actually have directed learning paths through the documentation, which I think is going to be really valuable. I'm looking forward to the point where we show off the final graph. That'll be fun because it looks really cool. It's a really great way of structuring information, and it's a really great way for us to get an overview of it. I think it can really take off in the content management front there. I think it's
pretty cool.
A really cool way of doing it.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen it, I'm thinking of actually turning this into a little helper library, like a little CLI or something. Like that would be so cool. It's basically you take all of the content that's in a documentation page or something that you want to explain, and then you split it up into little pieces of information. The pieces of information are kind of like the individual things you need to know in kind of the loose order that you need to know them. So, for instance, in like JavaScript, you need to know what JavaScript even is. You need to then know kind of like what a function is in order to know how to pass arguments to a function, all that sort of thing. And each of these modules declare their dependencies. So you get this sort of beautiful kind of Christmas tree sort of graph where everything's, well, it's a little bit messier than a Christmas tree, although not the Christmas trees that I buy. But yeah, and it just means that everything is sort of, you can work out the ideal learning order, all that sort of thing, and get all these amazing stuff around. And it's all very visual as well, which we like at Stately.
Yeah. And I'm oh, sorry.
Horacius is curious to learn more about the process of testing documentation to know how effective it is. And we will definitely find out about that fairly soon.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the cool thing, no worries. The cool thing regarding that question is that the fact that the documentation is basically a directed graph enables us to basically analyze and be like, oh, people are choosing this path or going through this path. And we could actually measure qualitatively or quantitatively, like just how effective the documentation is. And honestly, this solves a big personal problem for me because whenever I read documentation, I'm like, I have no idea where to start. And most of the time, I'm like, I just want to do this one thing. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack. I have to dig through the documentation, figure out what do I need to know to just do this one thing. And a lot of documentation is presented as like here, learn everything first. And that's not really efficient. So I'm very excited to see this honestly feels like the future of documentation.
Totally. We can optimize for both ways. We can optimize for if you want to learn everything as a single course, which I think some people do. They want to set aside time and go, okay, I want to master this thing. And some people just want to hack around the thing,
Carlos says, I hope the V5 release and new docs don't be an April Fool's Day thing.
Got you.
It's past noon here for Matt and I, so no April Fools for us.
True.
Right. Nope. We're all serious about everything. So the V5 Alpha is definitely coming. I know it's been in the works for about a couple years, just version 5, and there's just so much going into it. And I'm honestly really glad that we took our time because the more we engage with our community, the more we see the different ways that XState is being used. So we could actually form just really smart defaults and I guess you could call them opinions on how XState is used based on community usage. And so you don't really get that unless you really observe how people are using it over time. So that's why, I'm glad that we're taking our time on it, but it is about time for an alpha. So that is coming soon.
For sure. XState has a big reputation for robustness, and we're really, really keen on keeping things stable and keeping it
And of course, the new docs are non-April Fool's thing. I've seen it. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's for real.
It's getting there. So we asked folks what they wanted to know about the roadmap. So let me find how to share my screen. Oh, apparently I'm still sharing it. There we go. And we asked everyone, what would you like to see on our roadmap? And if you have anything you'd like to add, please feel free to let us know in the YouTube comments or on Twitter or in our Office Hours channel on Discord. And so first of all, she says, pulling our window around, we had Angelo said, the top one for me would be fold, hide compound states in the editor, and also some way to visualize more than one state machine on the same screen.
Yeah, so I think both of those are really interesting ideas. Regarding folding and hiding states, this was an original feature of the first visualizer that I made, I think a few years ago, but not present in the future ones, and especially not present in the editor because you can manually move nodes around. And so we really have to think about the behavior of like where you can move things to when you collapse a parent. How does that affect things that might overlap the parents when it's expanded and things like that? But I do think that that's important. In fact, one of my Monday experiments was making a focus mode. So basically, you would only see the current state, the transitions from that state, and maybe some text that says, here's what the next state is going to be. And while you're simulating a machine, most of the time, that's the most important information that you need. The rest is just things that, you know, you'll get to later when the state machine transitions to those states. So yeah, definitely some interesting ideas there. And as far as showing more than one state machine on the same screen, I think we basically envisioned the editor to be this IDE for state machines and logic. So just like, yeah, that's definitely something that we're thinking about too. Haven't really fully designed that yet, but it is important to have that feature.
I really agree with Angelo here. I think this would be a super cool feature, especially the folding hiding thing. Like if you look at, I play a lot of quite nerdy sort of strategy video games, you know, where you're trying to take over a medieval kingdom or that sort of thing. You know? And it's amazing how, especially those games, hide complexity at different levels of view. You know, when you're looking at the overview, then you can mostly see just the countries and see the main armies and groupings and blah, blah, blah. When you zoom in, you get to see more granular view and more granular, and you can really zoom in hard. And I feel like, yeah, that's a good inspiration for this kind of problem.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. The concept of maybe zooming out, showing you different information versus just you being able to see lots and lots of tiny little boxes and arrows.
Totally.
Yeah.
ABM said, I would like to see a way to handle interconnected state charts. So I guess this is along a similar line there.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, a state machine represented in the editor looks basically like a compound node, just because by default it is a compound node. You could put states inside it. So there really is no reason, except for, you know, technical implementation, why we can't have, you know, more than one of those and show ways like that they relate to each other. Again, this needs design, and we need to really think about how this is going to look and work. But that's an interesting idea.
Okay, if you want to work on these kind of problems, we are hiring for a product designer. We will mention that later.
Yeah, I really love the idea of being able to see, sorry to jump back to the previous one, of having, like, let's say your front end and your back end as two separate machines and being able to see the flow between them. That seems really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael said, for the editor, a better layout, auto layout algorithm. The inspector is giving better results than the editor. I also gave up manually beautifying the layout. I cannot get it nicely done. Oh, I know that feeling sometimes.
Yeah, this is something we have currently planned. And it's actually interesting because the auto layout algorithm that the editor is currently using is basically the same one as the visualizer, but you might be referring to the previous version, which is the previous inspector, and that's just using HTML, you know, CSS Flexbox. But yeah, in the future we will have better, more granular auto layout features.
We've done this like 4 times, right? Or especially you have, David, like with the original viz, and then the inspector, and then the new viz, and now the new editor. And the feedback we get on all of them is that they prefer another one, you know? Like,
yeah.
So if they like the old viz, then they, you know, it's crazy. So they use all slightly different layout algorithms, and so it's pretty hard to please everyone, I think. But yeah, I agree that auto layout definitely can be improved in a bunch of ways.
Yeah, it's one of those things we're always trying to improve. Martin said, sounds like a very exciting roadmap already. I remember hearing something about private/unlisted machines on the registry. Is this still planned?
Yes, it is still planned. And it's definitely something we want to do soon in Q2.
It's planned as part of Teams as well. So you can...
that's what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, sign on with your team or sign up as part of a team. Yeah,
it falls under that group. Maybe the roadmap is a little bit vague in that point there. So maybe I should update that so that it actually specifies. And Martin says, also for the registry, when creating a machine on the visual editor, being able to start from/use existing code would be awesome. A two-way relation with the viz maybe. On the VS Code extension, I find that this relation with the visual editor and code helps a lot.
Yeah, this is definitely possible. Matt has already proven it with the VS Code extension. We could take arbitrary machine code and visualize it. So there's no reason why we can't convert, visualized machines and let you click a button and say, hey, I want this in the editor.
Totally. Or even just, copy your machine code, paste it into the editor, and boom, you're ready.
That would be cool.
Parker Code says, well, I don't mean to push my own agenda, but there are some things that we've discussed at times that I'm excited about. The receptionist for referencing actors. The testing enhancements.
Sorry. So yeah, the receptionist, also a very good idea. This is the idea that instead of an actor needing to ask its parents and maybe its parents like, hey, can you please send this message over to this other actor? There's just this idea of a system-wide receptionist where you could be like, hey, send it to this actor. And just like, I guess in America, we have the yellow pages. You could just look up someone's number in that thing. I don't know what it's like in the UK or Ireland, but
it's called the yellow pages in the UK as well.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it is around the rest of Europe.
Yeah, the pages are colored yellow for some global reason.
It's a phone book.
Yeah. Okay, phone book. I think that's a better way of putting it. So yeah, a receptionist is basically a phone book for any actor living at any level of the system, which makes it a lot easier to communicate with. And this is one of the core ideas of the actor model. So like even dating back to the 1970s, 1980s. So I do think it's important to support that.
Parker also wants testing enhancement, like chained methods to describe sending events and what states it ends up in, separate from the path/plans tests.
Yeah, I'd be interested in like what that chain methods thing looks like. I was actually talking to Matt earlier this week about XState's test, the next version of it. He came up with some really, really good ideas. So there's going to be some exciting stuff coming in that area.
Yeah, this is cool, this idea of chaining methods. Actually, I hadn't thought of it like that. Like being able to say, okay, machine, send it an event, then dot, expect it to be in, or expect it to resolve to blah, 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 expect blah, 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 blah. That could be cool. I could dig that. Especially if you're testing your machine in a very, very pure way, that sounds interesting.
And finally, private events, like not exposing a tick event that can be sent in from the outside.
Yeah, so this is also something that was on the ideas channel, and it might be a good idea to just make a page in the documentation for ideas, or just GitHub discussions or something. We do have that ideas category in there, and I could put that there too. But yeah, private events is a good idea. So you could say, I will accept this event, but only if it comes from this specific origin. We've talked about that before, and yeah, it's important.
It's especially useful in TypeScript too, because you ideally you don't want autocomplete on events that aren't sent from outside. So you ideally have your set of events that it can receive and the set of events that it can sort of give to itself. So like a done invocation ending, for instance, that's like a machine. That's an event that can't be sent from outside, even though technically it can right now, which is interesting.
I'm just going to have a quick check on the questions. Yeah, in the UK, it is the Yellow Pages. Yeah, there's a famous advert with the Yellow Pages that I don't know whether it's a very 90s thing, 90s and earlier. So one other thing that we wanted to mention, of course, is that we are hiring, and the URL, again, we haven't got a short URL. So I'll put the URL for this in the video description and in the tweet thread as soon as we're finished, in case anybody couldn't grab it or hasn't found it before. David, would you give us just a quick summary of what we're hiring for right now?
Sure. So currently we're hiring for 4 roles. That is a front-end engineer, back-end engineer, developer advocate, and product designer. And all 4 of those are just going to be really important. And 4 doesn't mean 4 people. Those are just 4 roles that we're hiring for. And yeah, we're slowly growing our team. We really like that small team feel. But we have a ton of projects that we need to do. And you're also going to be working on really, really interesting stuff, especially with, design. It's not just designing our user interfaces, but also like just trying to figure out like just this communication barrier between design and development and helping to break it. Also, I do want to say that we've gotten a ton of resumes so far, and we're really excited. There's so many awesome people there. We're still in the process of getting back to people one by one. So if you didn't receive a response yet, please do not be dismayed, because I still have a lot to go through. So
yeah, we'll get
we're
there.
still a relatively small team, so hiring people does take a lot of our time.
Yes,
absolutely. And if you want to find out more about those positions and have any more questions about it, it's Farzad. We miss you.
Yeah, we miss you, man.
We hope you're having a good break. And so if you want to find out more about those positions and what it's like working with Stately, you can check out our last week's office hours. We went into a lot of detail there and answered a lot of questions. I think it's a really helpful episode that we had. And so we also wanted to share that the number of events that the Stately team will be at in the next few months, it is huge. So huge that I actually had to make, I thought banners are not enough. I had to make a specific page thingy for it. Let me bring it up. There we go. And so these are in chronological order. First of all, we have React Miami, April 18th to 19th, which is in Miami.
Yes.
We have Reactathon coming up May 2nd to 5th, and that is in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have JS Day Canarias, which is May 5th to 8th, and that is in Tenerife. So if you want to go to some sunshine in May, good choice that. We have BJS in Brussels on May 13th. We have Remix Conference in Salt Lake City on May 24th to 25th. We have Render ATL in Atlanta in June 1st to 4th. We have Birmingham Design Festival. This one's more local to me and Matt. June 9th to 11th. And we have React Next in Tel Aviv in Israel on June the 28th. So a huge number of events that the team will be at in varying forms. Some talks being given, some of them not so much, I don't know. But if you want to know anything more about those events, we recommend you go find their conference pages. I will put links to all of them in the video description. And come meet us. We're very friendly and we would love to meet you in person. It would be very nice.
And we'll have some swag for you too. Exclusive stickers and all of that.
Absolutely. So unless anyone has anything else that they wanted to talk about this week, or if any of you in the comments had any more questions, Matt's waving.
I am waving, yeah. We got an interesting question from Twitter, which was Angelo, who was asking about the code folding before. He said, thanks for explaining your thinking on the question about folding. I love the focus idea. It's a tricky concept dealing with what to show on a screen. Fundamentally, you care about where you were and where you might go. There's kind of it's a really interesting idea, like what David was saying about the sort of focus mode, where I've thought about this before. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure book, where you're on the chapter that you're on, and you like the state that you're in, essentially, and you could go to different places based on decisions that you make. That's kind of quite a neat way of explaining pretty much any UI, actually. It fits onto state charts quite well. And I I find that idea quite appealing for like automating prototypes, for instance. So if you had like let's imagine that we powered up simulation mode so much that you could append designs to it, so you could actually see the sort of section that you're in as you're going. And yeah, okay, David's got something cool.
Yep, I have a very small example. By the way, really random, but this is my first time playing with lit, and I love it. It's so simple. So it basically feels like React, but it's in string form. But that's not important. What's important is just this idea of a focus mode. So I really wanted to just like really feel like what this feels like. This is your typical traffic light example where we have green, yellow, and red. However, the yellow and the red state nodes are actually not showing just because they're not active right now. But you could do two things. You could either set the timer or do a power outage, which is going to send you to a blinking state. So if you click yellow timer, it goes to yellow, and you see it change over here. Maybe we'll have some animation or something, and then you see it goes to red, and then you see all of the active states over here, which is red, walk, and light, which is just the overall parent state. But this would be really good to just fit on a web page or something like that, or even in a Chrome extension. So this is sort of my general idea around focused mode. And it actually gets a lot of inspiration from sketch.systems, which is really, really cool. It has this way of, just showing you what's going to happen next immediately over here in a very concise way, except this shows all the states. But yeah,
and that prototype being right next to it is super cool as well. That's kind of kind of the same idea, right? Like that means you can just see everything. You imagine hooking this up to like a storybook or something, and you've suddenly got component testing for everything you need. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, love it.
Nice. Great, impromptu demo. Look at you go.
We needed to have one.
Yeah, what is an office hours without a demo?
Right.
So I guess on that note, we will wrap up for the week and see you again next week. Maybe there'll be more of us next week. We'll see. It was lovely having you all here. Thank you for joining us in the comments and for asking your questions. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your feedback. If you have any feedback for us or questions that you want to ask during the week, you know that you can join us on our Discord, which is discord.gg/XState. You can tweet us at StatelyAI or just ask us in the YouTube comments. I'll find them somehow. So we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.